Hello, my name is John Rice, and today I want to talk to you about value stream mapping. Value stream mapping is one of my favorite topics that I like to discuss because I think, when you're looking at lean and continuous improvement, one of your most important things is creating flow, creating material flow, creating information flow, making things visible. And so, I think what value stream mapping to me does is it allows you to look at all your processes from a strategic standpoint, a holistic view, and say, where do I need to focus my efforts? We all lead very, very busy lives, and we need to really focus on the main thing, right? The main thing is the main thing. And so we're going to talk about that with our value stream mapping course, and we're going to give you an introduction, okay? So value stream mapping, what is value stream mapping? Value stream mapping is let me get my pointer here, but it's improving material and information flow so that value is added and waste is eliminated. And that's what our focus is, okay? So, that's really what we want to do. So our definition of value stream mapping is the review of a process visually from the beginning of a customer request to the fulfillment of that customer request to improve the material and information flow so that value is added to the customer and waste is eliminated. And so, really when we think about that, fulfillment of the customer request from the beginning of the customer request to the fulfillment. So we want to look at our material flow, we want to look at our information flow, identify where things are not moving as well as they should, look at how we add value to the customer, and eliminate waste. So that's our objectives, okay? So our goal is to identify our before current batch process state and understand its material and information flow. So, what I've got here is a current state map here, and as we look at this, this is a value stream map that's been filled out if you've never seen one. And the top half is your information flow, okay? And so you can see in the center, this is our company here, our production scheduling department, and they're interfacing with they're interfacing with the vendor. They're then interfacing over here with the customer, and then through weekly production schedules and daily ship schedules, they're interfacing with each of the departments as well as our shipping department to coordinate everything, okay? And then down on the lower half here, what we have is, as we look at this, is we have our material flow. And you can see, we got material shipping from our vendor arriving to the shipping department, and then the material flows through each of our departments. And in this case, this is a batch and queue process. So, really when you look at, in this case, you've got your first department doing drilling, your second department doing tapping, the next department doing buffing, and then the last department doing assembly. And you can see the inventory that's built up in each of those processes. And in this case, if we had a daily demand of 250 pieces, you can see how we get the number of days of inventory that we're adding up here. You can't see it due to my screen, but this adds up to about 22.5 days if you were to total the amount of inventory. And then the other information that we fill out when we create this value stream map is we look at our cycle time, our changeover times, and the cycle time is important because what we're doing is we're looking at the total amount of value added time that we're adding to the process. In this case, over here in the bottom right-hand corner, you can't see it, but it's 237 seconds. So 237 seconds total is our total processing time we actually do, but it takes us, we have the equivalent of 22.5 days of inventory. So that's really how long it's going to take us to get through the process, right? So adding a significant amount of time to process this. So that's showing a current state map. And then what we want to be able to do is transform it into a one-piece flow state and reduce our lead time. So when we look at this future state map, what we're actually doing here is, in this case, what we've done is, remember, this was prior to was a batch and queue process. So no lean one-piece flow had been set up. Now what we're doing is we're looking and we're saying, well, what if we can combine all these processes into one production cell? And so by doing that, we're reducing all that inventory in each of the processes. The only inventory really we have here is right here when the material comes in the door. We've got the inventory in front of the cell, and we got the inventory outside of the cell where they've got it so that the shipper can come pull the material, so it'll be ready to get staged for shipping. But we've condensed the process quite a bit. So now you look, we got 1,000 pieces, which remember our daily demand's 250 pieces. So only 4 days of inventory there, 1 day on the shipping end. So now we're going from 22.5 days to 5 days. Significant decrease in the amount of inventory to process. Cycle time, just because we haven't done any processes yet, is 237 seconds. But if you've looked at my lean and introduction video, or looked at my lean and introduction course, you've actually seen how we can significantly reduce that cycle time. We can also reduce our changeover time. With value stream mapping, we don't necessarily get into the changeover reduction, but there are opportunities by applying single minute exchange of die and different things. And actually, if we look here, as part of these little bursts here, these are what we call Kaizen action bursts, or bursts things that we would want to do to help improve the process. We'd want to set up supermarkets, look at reducing our changeover by applying single minute exchange of die or setup reduction concepts. And we'd want to look at combining our cells, which we had already talked about, and then level loading the process. So you can see, you can see how much simpler and how much more compact the process is by just going through a value stream mapping event, identifying the material and information flow waste, and looking at how we can improve the overall lead time of the process. So again, we show our lead time 5 days. So the history of value stream mapping, it originated at Toyota, but it was turned to material and information flow. And it was a way of looking at the current state and to developing a future or ideal state. And we'll talk more about that ideal state here in a little bit. But it also became known as value stream mapping in 1998 with the introduction of the book Learning to See by Mike Rother and John Shook. A little history for myself, I've been in lean and continuous improvement for also quality for about 20 years. But my first introduction to the whole value stream mapping concept was when one of our sister facilities came in and we were doing a Kaizen event together. And it was Brooks Electronics. I originally, my lean and continuous improvement journey started with Walker Systems, which was a division of Wire Mold. I got there in the early 2000s. And by that point, they'd converted a lot of the processes over from batch and queue operations to one-piece flow, and we actually had a lot of advanced cells applying the concept of chukka lines, where the operator is just loading and unloading parts. They're putting the part in the machine, starting the machine, and the machine's doing all the work. So we had already done a lot of everything. And when you look at that, the senseis, the Japanese senseis we had, they had a real knack for, they just knew, because they'd done the processes so much for doing the material and information flow. And it was when I was introduced to the value stream mapping concept, it really, started to get you thinking, okay, so if you were going to do a process and set up going from a batch and queue process to a one-piece flow process, or if you were going to make improvements, massive improvements, and do them more quickly, what's the best way to do it? And it's really to look at the process overall, the whole strategic process, and that's what value stream mapping does. So the steps in the mapping, the value stream mapping process, what we're doing is we're reviewing the current state, we're looking at the material and information flow in the current state. We then try to identify opportunities to improve material and information flow while we're reducing waste. And then what we want to do is develop a picture of the future state. So that's kind of the whole concept, okay, in a nutshell. So what are the benefits of value stream mapping? So reviewing the value stream on a process will help us show ways to increase value to the customer while identifying waste and bottlenecks in our process. And it's so important that we understand what the bottlenecks are, understand where the waste is, and then we want to eliminate it. We want to keep flow going. It's so critical to keep flow going. And then, the other part that we want to do, the benefit is we're going to identify these waste in the current state, and we'll be developing what our future state will be. It'll help us generate tactical projects for our organization, and that will allow us to optimize the overall process. Okay, so that's some of the benefits. Value stream mapping scope. So, a lot of times, you've traditionally heard, you may have heard a value stream mapping process. What it allows you to do is you look at your whole process within the walls of your manufacturing facility, from the time the material is received in until it's shipped out. And that's true, and you can do that. That's one of the value stream mapping scopes. But a lot of times, if you start getting into the service industry, that may not necessarily imply. And we'll show some examples later, but really, some real benefits to your value stream mapping efforts is when you take a whole process from beginning to end. For example, down here, if you review the process when an order is received until cash is collected from the customer, to understand your lead time and how it affects your cash flow. So let's just take an instance. Sometimes we may not look at an overall process and understand the impact on cash flow, but let's just say, for instance, we pay our vendors in 30 days terms for whatever reason. And as we start going through our value stream mapping process, like in the example we just went through, a 22.5-day lead time, if that's business days, that's really a month, right? So, we're tying up cash for a whole month because of that lead time, right? But what if our customers, their terms, once we invoice them and ship them product, we start looking at the lead time, the invoicing, their terms are, as long as they pay within 60 days, we're good. Well, as you start doing that process, you start seeing, okay, we're paying the vendors in 30 days, our customers are paying us in 60 days. That's a 1 month gap there. Our lead time is 1 month. So now look at the amount of cash, from a cash flow perspective, look at the amount of cash. We're tying up almost a month's worth of cash because of our lead times related to our manufacturing processes. So that's one of the benefits. If you can look within your walls, but you can also look at the process from beginning to end. And we'll get into some other examples here in a minute. So what is value stream mapping? It's a strategic business tool versus a tactical business tool like process mapping. It reviews, as we talked about, it reviews a customer request all the way through a plant or company, from the start of a customer request until it is fulfilled. And it's a high-level view of the way the request flows through a plant or company, okay? So when does value stream mapping apply? Anywhere where a company has processes or where a customer requests something until the order is fulfilled, that's when value stream mapping can apply. So some examples, we've already talked about this, a manufacturing order for physical product. That's one thing where a value stream mapping applies. Providing services for a customer. If you're service oriented, value stream mapping applies really, really well. If you've got a patient waiting in an emergency room, from the time they log in until, they're seen, or you could even look at the process further until they're, seen, until they're discharged, or until they receive an appropriate diagnosis. There's a lot of different ways to look at that. Processing customer orders or providing quotes. This is a fantastic example. Let's say you and your competitors both are basically about the same price-wise, but your competitor can get a quote in 1 day to your customer, whereas it may take you 5 days. Who do you think they're going to go to? More than likely, they're going to go to your competitor. And the only way you're going to be able to get a better or get that customer is to lower your price. So if you can be the first to provide a quote, with all things be equal, it's going to improve your competitive edge. And then processing claims is another example. So how do you know what to value stream map in a manufacturing process? So what you want to do is you want to review the processes in your organization, okay? And so what we want to do is we want to look at our major product families and determine what percentage of volume they are, right? We want to apply the Pareto concept where, 20% of our products are probably 80% of our volume. And that's really where we should focus our process or focus our efforts initially, and making sure we're getting the biggest bang for the buck when we do a value stream mapping event, okay? And so what we'd look at is we might look at scrap rates. That might be an area of focus based on if we got an area with higher scrap rates, we may want to look at lead times. If we got a process that's got a extremely high lead time, that's another opportunity. Looking at cost as a percentage of sales dollar, and then also complaints received from customers on service. That's another area we want to look at, okay? So the value stream mapping process steps. We're going to go through that now. And so it's important that we understand, we want to identify our project. We want to determine what we want to achieve in the project, what our goals and our objectives. So once we've identified the project, determine what we want to achieve, then we want to gain top management commitment. We want to get the backing of top management. We got to drive this value stream mapping process from top down and have the commitment. Because remember, when you're doing a value stream mapping process, you're going to go across several departments within your organization, within your company. And you've got to have somebody at a high enough level of commitment that they're going to be like, I support this all the way. I want everybody to be on board. And so it's extremely important you do that. And then based on that, you're going to create your team based on your goals, okay? So it may be a little bit different from value stream mapping event to value stream mapping event. You may have one where you need a lot of IT people in your value stream mapping event. You may have one where you need the tooling department, or you may have your product development team involved. So it just depends on the situation. And then what you want to do is you want to gather initial information. You want to make sure that you've got a good baseline. Remember, your objective is if you're conducting a value stream mapping event, you're going to be the facilitator more than likely, right? So your job is to conduct the event, and you want to provide the data, and you want to say, this is the end state of what we want to get to, but you've got to, at the same time, be flexible enough and create an environment where you're going to let the team create the solution and help determine what the issues are. You're just going to help lead them and facilitate them and make sure they're staying on task with what you want to accomplish, okay? And then you want to begin the event and review the charter, okay? So you'll begin the event, you'll review what the charter and what the objectives are, and then once you do that, we're going to go out on the plant floor, we're going to create our current state map, right? So we're going to look at the processes. We're going to go through each part of the process. We're going to observe, hopefully, more than likely the best idea is to get the whole team go look at each of the processes, and you're going to document what you see on your current state map, okay? And, just going back the previous process, that's one of the things you'll have to do when you meet initially is, a lot of people may not have ever done a value stream map, so you're going to kind of have to go through, this is what a value stream map is, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we'll go create it, okay? So once you create your current state map, then you're going to brainstorm, and then you'll take some notes and say, okay, what did I see? Did I see this? Was that right? Everybody will try to go through, but then there will be notes. Everybody will go back out on the plant floor again and verify that, yeah, that matches up with what we saw. So once we do that, then we're going to create our future state map, and we're going to say, this is what we think we can get to, and you'll do some number calculations and say, okay, this is what we can do from a lead time perspective. This is what we think we can do from a value perspective. And so you're going to create your future state map. You'll have your little Kaizen burst that we were showing earlier. And then we're going to do, we call it our Kaizen Action Plan, or CAP. And what it is just identifying all the steps that you're going to do to turn everything into a reality and to make your future state a reality. And then at the end is what you're going to do is review progress and follow up. So you'll have a closing event, and then you make sure that your senior management is in the final event. And then what you want to do is make sure everybody's committed, everybody's signed up, and then you want to review the progress and follow up. And it's so critical. This is where a lot of complaints people will have, if as far as value stream mapping sometimes, is that the maps, you create them and they may collect dust. They'll collect dust only if the organization is not committed and they're driving to completion. Okay. So remember, our end goal is to identify our material and information flow and determine what our ideal Nirvana state is, and use that image to define our future state. So, you can see here's our current state down here, and we want to drive continuous improvement. We want our ideal or Nirvana state. That's where we're approaching. And so when we think about that, it's very easy to get caught into the current state and say, this is why, you can't make these improvements because of this, this, and this. And it's so easy to get caught up in, this is why we can't do this. I was, when I was at Walker Systems, I led a lean and continuous improvement process where we were looking at setting up our Kanbans and determining what our levels should be. And, we had all this statistical data as far as this is the parts volume and this is the percent volume of each of the parts, and, this is their monthly demand and all this. And, when we started doing the presentation, the lean consultant was like, no, we're gonna, I want you to look at your ideal state. And so, I resisted a couple times, and I finally realized what he was trying to accomplish. And so, that's where you just let yourself be led, let the sensei teach you and teach you what he's trying to accomplish. And so, what he was like, remove your blinders and say, this is from a material flow, from a information flow. How do you want to do it? How do you want to create your Kanban process? If you removed all of your obstacles and said, this is the way I want to do it, ideal state, this is the Nirvana state, what is that? And so once you define that and you don't worry about the obstacles, then what you do is you say, okay, this is my state. This is what I want to get to right here, right? But how do I get to that, right? How do I get to that ideal or Nirvana state? How do I push towards that, right? So that's really what we want to accomplish, okay? So the better we define our ideal state and the more we drive to it, the closer we're going to get future state to the ideal Nirvana state, right? Do you want to be here, or do you want to be here? I want to be here, right? I want to be as close to that Nirvana state as I can get. Okay, so it's so critical. All right. So value stream mapping pitfalls to avoid. One is too broad an overview being value stream map. Not having people from each of the processes involved, that's another part. If you don't have all the people from all the processes involved, then they're going to get very, very defensive, and they should, because you are stepping into their turf, you're stepping into their territory. You really need to understand what are their daily struggles, what are they dealing with. And, a lot of times, even at the operator level, they may have just never been heard. So it's really good to identify those things. And if we can provide solutions for that, we're just going to make their process that much better. And then it'll make it easier to sell the whole concept. But we do have to have people from each of the processes involved. It's going to help us to gain more buy-in on everything. The next thing is not having data collected up front. Again, your job is to facilitate. You're kind of laying the baseline of this is where we're at, current state. You're going to want everybody to go out and verify that, but it's so critical that you're actually going to get there, that you're actually going to go collect your data up front. You're going to look at the processes and see what it is, what the baseline is, and verify. It'll get verified, but you gotta verify, establish the baseline data, and then facilitate. The next thing is not having the appropriate level of commitment up front. If you don't have top management's commitment, it's going to be very hard to sell the process, right? So some reference materials on this is Learning to See by Mike Rother and John Shooks. Really they brought the value stream mapping to the forefront. Another great resource, this book or this course, Value Stream Mapping by Karen Martin and Mike Osterling. That is on Audible. That's how I actually listen to their Audible one. I also, New View Solutions, we do have our online value stream mapping. That's at ceu.newview.us. That's $14.99 if purchased by August 23rd, 22. Use the code NVS-VSM22, okay? And, what will this course do for you? Whether you buy the book or whether you purchase our online course, why do you want a value stream map? Because it helps you understand your processes and how they interrelate. It also allows you to help make the best use of your company's time and resources. So, if you take value stream mapping and you understand things, you understand your processes from a strategic standpoint, understand flow, and look at a policy deployment where you assign your resources, what it's going to allow you to do is make the best use of your company's time and resources. And then finally, it allows you to invest in yourself. And that's probably the biggest thing. Anytime we can invest in ourselves, it allows us to grow. And, that's one of the reasons why we've got this course at $14.99. So thank you for your time. Finally, I do want to show right here, and excuse me for the misspelling there, but Value Stream Online Value Stream Mapping course. What do we cover in it? We do cover engineering considerations, the value stream mapping introduction. We talk about the lean mini module tack time, value stream mapping current state, the introduction to value stream mapping icons, going to the floor, creating the current state map. We look at the future state map, considerations for the future state and construction of the future state map. And then we go into creating and implementing the Kaizen action plan, make the order scenarios, and an advanced example of value stream map. So, all these, we're taking a process from beginning to end, and you get to see how it's created. And you can stop as you're going through the video and just kind of go along yourself. Excuse me. The lesson 6 and lesson 7. These are some fabulous examples, make the order examples, and then an advanced example of a value stream map. So it really takes a lot of things and points out a lot of things. So really this 5-hour course, a lot of great value. We do now have a YouTube channel. So in YouTube, you can search John Reisling Sensei. Subscribe if you feel it adds value, or visit ceu.newview.us. If for whatever reason it's after August 23rd, go ahead and still go online here because there are free resources. You can sign up to our email list, and we do periodically have discounts to our courses. So again, thank you for watching and appreciate your time.